Good afternoon, scholars and alumni, to our fourth event during our summer career series. Thank you so much for joining us today. Hello, Catherine. I was going to mention, feel free if you'd like to introduce yourself in the chat, say where you're from, what institution you're attending. But thank you so much for joining us today. We have another great session. And that session topic is just getting started, what aspiring Undocu-Business professionals need to know. Before we begin too, I just want to remind everyone to please keep yourself muted during the entirety of the event. If you do have any questions, we will have a Q&A at the end. I encourage you to potentially wait to ask your questions till the end because our chat can be pretty lively. And our last and final session will be tomorrow, how to find independent contracting and freelance work. It'll be the same time, same Zoom link. So hopefully we will be able to see you tomorrow as well. I will also mention that all of these sessions will be recorded. You can find them on our YouTube channel, and we will be sending you a follow-up link to that via email as well as in our Facebook group. With that, I would like to introduce today's guest speaker, Joel, who is an entrepreneur and non-DACA undocumented business owner who graduated from the University of California, Santa Cruz with a bachelor's in psychology in 2018 and recently obtained his master's of science in entrepreneurship and innovation from the University of San Francisco. He is an aspiring serial social entrepreneur seeking to create more spaces that uplift minoritized communities and fierce Undocu advocate spreading awareness around career and work alternatives for undocumented students and professionals. Thank you, Joel, for joining us today, and you can go ahead and take it away.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Nicole. Again, I appreciate the invitation. I'm so glad that TheDream.Us is kind of putting these series together. I think it's very important to spread the information. And so I'm hoping that you're able to gather enough information from this workshop to essentially just know what to expect before you even establish yourself as a business, right? So the process of starting a business is there's a lot more to this, but I'm going to try to just cover the basics of what to know before you even establish yourself as an actual entity. As Nicole mentioned, I'm a social entrepreneur, so I kind of focus my research and focus a lot of my work around trying to develop businesses and entities that help in solving an issue that I'm socially motivated and socially looking to fix, right? So I am a founder of Allies Pro Services, which is a career service business here in the Bay Area in California, and I am in the process of developing another business, which I'll talk about towards the end, or people can ask me about it. All right, so we're going to get started with a quick disclaimer, as I always like to start my presentations. This is intended for informational and educational purposes only and does not replace independent professional judgment. Nothing in this presentation constitutes professional or legal advice. So now that we got that out of the way, so a quick introduction to who I am and how how I came to be a undocumented business owner. So I was born in Mexico City. I arrived to the U.S. at the age of 5 in search of that infamous American dream that a lot of us undocumented individuals come to seek. So throughout a lot of my teenage years and a lot of like my high school and early college years, a lot of my summers were spent, not only building and strengthening that undocu hustle mentality, right? And so I want to express that although maybe a lot of us do not necessarily have a business background or maybe don't necessarily see ourselves as entrepreneurs, a lot of us have unknowingly kind of developed that entrepreneurship mindset and that entrepreneurship drive, and that and a lot of it stems from our parents, or our upbringings, or our necessity to kind of just find ways to make it by, right? So I want to kind of just you know let you all know that although maybe you don't have that business background, it doesn't necessarily mean you cannot be an entrepreneur. So I did graduate with the bachelor's in psychology and an education in 2000 and a minor in education in 2018. I was documented before from the years 2017 to 2012 to 2017. But unfortunately, I did not renew my DACA during the Trump administration, out of fear and out of not getting educated on a lot of the issues that were going on during that presidential time. So I did lose my DACA, and a lot of the years after I graduated from my undergrad were spent kind of researching and getting very acquainted and knowledgeable with independent contracting, which I provided a lot of independent contracting services to a multitude of nonprofits and small businesses as a non-DACA individual. And finally, in 2020, in the middle of the pandemic, I established my first business. I continued to develop that business, and now that business is thriving, right? As I mentioned, some of you might have been at the panel. That business is generating six-figure revenues now. I would have never imagined in 2017 or 2018, when I was graduating with my bachelor's, that I'd be, a business owner of a six-figure business. So, a lot can change within a small time frame. So I hopefully that serves as a motivation for you guys to maybe get started now, and 3 to 4 years, 5 years from now, you can also have your business in that place, right? So I did want to continue to learn more on how to develop businesses appropriately, and how to help my community in establishing businesses. So I did go on and pursue my master's of science in business entrepreneurship and innovation from USF. So workshop structure, we're just going to go over what entrepreneurship is before establishing a business, and then some quick tips for new business owners. And then we'll end off with the Q&A. So first, I just kind of want to, you guys have already gone through a couple of workshops and that panel that you guys attended last week. So why don't we go ahead and just drop it in the chat. Give us some words or a quick sentence as to what you think entrepreneurship is. And we'll just kind of read through them a little bit and try to see where people are at with knowing what entrepreneurship is. Can I pull up that chat real quick? Okay, so Gabby says being an owner of a business, being your own boss. Okay, Austin. Let's get one more. CEO, run a business while being undocumented. Good. Yeah, so all of those are being resilient, leadership, becoming a leader. Yeah, all of those are good. Leadership, personal growth, starting a business. Good. So yeah, so you guys kind of get the gist of what entrepreneurship is. I'll give you guys kind of like the definition. And I put cookie cutter. It's kind of like a cookie cutter definition for entrepreneurship. In my view, is entrepreneurship is the act of creating a business or businesses while building and scaling it to generate profit. So here, the end goal is always profit, right? So what is an entrepreneur? An entrepreneur is a person who sets up a business with the aim to make a profit. So again, the end goal for entrepreneurship is for the most part seems to be generating profit or creating an idea or going through with an idea to generate that profit. Again, let's get back to the chat. So who are some entrepreneurs that you guys maybe look up to? I put some examples here of maybe a lot of entrepreneurs or business owners that we know of. Today, of course, Elon Musk, famous for starting Tesla, Mark, we have Oprah, and then we have, of course, MJ, Michael Jordan, who's we know him as a basketball player, but also a great entrepreneur and investor. Has developed quite a bit of projects. I'm going to read through the chat real quick, see what entrepreneurs you guys might look up to. Dana White, okay, yeah. LeBron James, yep. Julissa Prado, yeah, okay. Bill Gates, Kobe Bryant, Warren Buffett, yeah. My parent, okay, cool, that's awesome. So a lot of these entrepreneurs that you guys are naming, for the most part, a lot of these entrepreneurs had the ability to start these businesses or these projects or these endeavors to start a business because they had the assets to do it, right? They had the money, they had the support, they had a lot of things going for them that gave them the opportunity to kind of develop these great multi-million-dollar businesses and bring in millions and millions of dollars, right? So for me, because I am a social entrepreneur, I do kind of focus more on like the Undocu entrepreneurship aspect. And I think that for me, it's different than just entrepreneurship, right? Because Undocu entrepreneurship, a lot of us will, as I mentioned, have inherited this entrepreneur spirit by not by choice, but out of necessity, right? So I think the term for me, Undocu entrepreneurship, often comes from necessity and passion. And for a lot of us, we try to seek solutions to, where maybe an average person may only see problems. So that Undocu hustle mentality is being able to recognize value and opportunities where others do not. And just a quick fact, immigrant entrepreneurs actually account for 25% of all new businesses in the United States. So entrepreneurship, again, is embedded in a lot of our communities, and it is inherited through seeing our parents. One of you guys mentioned your mom. So a lot of those, skills have been inherited through the need of just making it by or finding ways to put food on our tables, etc. So, as I mentioned, I've always kind of found ways to develop myself as an entrepreneur because I had that need, right? I developed my first business in 2020, and then in 2022, I was like, hey, you know what? I love doing stuff in the kitchen. I love cooking. I need ways to pay off my master's program. So I started a catering business and I started catering on the side. So a lot of our interests or a lot of the things that we maybe do at home well, or a lot of the things that we might be good at, can be developed into in a business, right? It can be developed as a way to generate income and make a living. So, maybe not necessarily, I know you guys went through how to make your major into a business, which is great. I developed my major into a business idea as well. But also think about the other skills and the other things that you guys might be good at or passionate about that you can develop into a business idea, or maybe a second business idea, or maybe a side business, or a second stream of income. So don't limit yourself to just the thing that you're majoring in necessarily. Also think about other things that you've developed throughout your life, or your side hustles or your side gigs, etc. All right, so we're going to go through the process of starting a business and what to know before you even start a business, right? So the first thing is knowing how to formulate a general business idea or concept, right? Like, what are you trying to offer? What is that basic concept of what you're trying to either sell, or the services that you're trying to provide? And I've actually provided some good tools here that you guys you will have a copy of all of this. Some tools for you guys to kind of generate a general business idea. So maybe a lot of you guys are like, well, I don't know what to do. Like, this is what my major is, and I saw a lot of those questions in that panel was like, well, how do I know what to do with so and so? How do I know what to do with with this major? How do I know what kind of business I can start, right? So the how to start an LLC business ideas tool will let you actually select what your interests are, what your starting capital would be, as well as like what kind of like, are you looking to start it from home? Are you trying to like start a brick and mortar? Are you trying to establish an actual office? Like all of these assessment questions. Once you select the business, the interest that you have, the tool kit will actually generate some business ideas for you, and it'll give you a guide as to how you can like start that general business idea and what to look into. So I highly recommend these links that I'm providing for you guys, so that you guys can generate those general business ideas, or what are those interests that might that you might have now but not necessarily know what kind of business you can make out of it. Definitely utilize those tools. And so when you're going through this idea generation and assessment, kind of think about these questions, like where have you seen this idea used before? So if you have a business idea and you've seen it being used before, like how can you use what is already being done and make it better? Or how can you change it so that you have a competitive edge compared to the person or business or company that's already doing it, right? So can you clearly articulate your idea? So if you cannot articulate your idea or your what business you're trying to create, maybe you should do a little more research and get like the concept down a little more clear before you even start talking about like, hey, I'm trying to provide this kind of service, or I'm trying to provide this product, without, if you don't necessarily have it all down yet, right? So it's like your business pitch or your ability to pitch this idea to people. It needs to be clear, and you need to be able to articulate it. Okay. So do you really understand the industry? You don't want to go into an industry that you don't fully understand, because then your credibility is out the door, right? You want to make sure that you're credible when you're trying to provide a service or provide a product, because no one wants to buy a product that you're not necessarily an expert in, right? Or no one wants to buy a service that you're not necessarily an expert in, right? So and then knowing what licenses or certifications do you need to start the business that you have in mind. So again, we're going into that before establishing a business entity. So we're going to go through, again, it's going to be broken down into 4 general levels of assessment. So before you even establish yourself as a business, as an LLC, as an S Corp, as a C Corp, whatever, you want to make sure you go through these levels of assessments before you you pay your fees, you do your paperwork of, hey, I'm ready to start a business. No, you're not. You got to go through these 4 levels of assessments before you even pay your fees and go through that paperwork. Okay. So 1, the anatomy of an entrepreneur. So you want to make sure that you have some of, and some of you guys had already mentioned some of these already in the chat when I asked what's entrepreneurship. So the anatomy of an entrepreneur, you got to be able to have that focus. You have got to have the competitiveness. Some of you already mentioned leadership, the independence. You got to have that ability to make decisions, the problem solving skills, the drive to succeed, the emotional strength, the physical stamina, self-discipline, and self-objectivity. There's more. Can you guys name any other skills or anatomies that an entrepreneur needs to be successful in the business world? I'll be opening the chat. Resilience, discipline, emotional intelligence. Yeah. Any more? Capital. Yeah, of course. Time. Yeah. So like time management, maybe. Reliability. Good. Let's get one more. Patience. Yeah. That's optimism, patience. Yeah. So all of these things that you guys are naming are necessary for you guys to be a good business owner or a good entrepreneur, right? Because a lot of us entrepreneurs and business owners, and as I mentioned at the bottom, have to work overtime. And a lot of that time is unpaid. We're trying to develop a business idea. We're trying to figure ways to keep our businesses competitive. And a lot of the times you'll find yourself working 10 hours, 12 hours, 15 hours. And a lot of that time goes unpaid, right? Because you're working for yourself. So a lot of the time invested into a business a business idea, sometimes at the beginning you're going to be making a couple dollars or maybe not even enough to necessarily like pay off a lot of the things that you need. So you want to make sure that you always have a plan. You always have that a lot of that emotional strength and that ability to be self-disciplined and be able to stick to your plan, etc. So another quick fact is that 20% fail within the first year and 50% of businesses fail within the first 5 years. And a lot of it comes from unpreparedness. A lot of it comes from not going through these 4 levels of assessments before they even establish themselves as a business. And I have some friends, close friends of mine, that actually went through with developing these businesses without necessarily assessing the market, without testing their product or testing their service first before they establish themselves as a business. And now they're like struggling to have their businesses kind of thrive and the environment that they and the market that they went into, because they didn't go through these assessments. And one of them being the most important is the self-assessment, right? Because not everyone is set out to be a business owner, and that's just the reality of it, right? So there's 102 of you guys here. Does that mean that all 102 of you will own a business? Not necessarily. I mean, we would love that, right? I am rooting for all of you guys, but maybe sometimes you're not necessarily fit for you to be a business owner, but maybe you can be a entrepreneur, which I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about. An entrepreneur is kind of someone that brings ideas into an already established business or company or startup as an independent contractor. So you don't necessarily need to develop a business yourself, but you can bring in innovative ideas that you can contribute to a business or established startup for it to develop into a more profitable business. And in exchange, you would get either equity of the business. In exchange, you could receive money. In exchange, you can receive shares of the startup business. So there's different ways that you can still kind of develop yourself as an entrepreneur, but not necessarily establish a business. Again, because not everyone is necessarily fit to be a business owner. Okay. So how good a fit are you for starting a business? Do you have the resources needed? Do you have the skills and experience needed? Do you have that personality needed to be a business owner? And all of these things are an assessment of yourself. So you really need to like kind of go through that, right? And then again, what areas will you need help in? The 5 core business skills needed is you need to have a little bit of a sales background, a little bit of a marketing background, a little bit of a management background, a planning background, and the ability to adapt. And if you don't have that, then you probably cannot run that business on your own. You'll need to find help in some of these core business skills so that your business thrives and does well. So I'm not good at all of these. So I've actually extended and asked for help in my marketing, and I've asked help in my finances and stuff like that. So knowing where to get those that help would also give you an idea as to where you will need help for your business to thrive. So we've gone through that self-assessment. Before you establish a business, know that you will need money to start, right? So maybe not, depending on the type of business that you're going to be starting, you need to know where that money will come from. You have money that's accessible. That's your personal savings, friends, family, partners, business partners, etc. So you need to have money to develop a business, right? So if you are going into a startup, if you're developing a startup business, right, you can seek as capital through equity, so grants, crowdfunding, angel investors, venture capital. A lot of these will require you to have a very good business plan. It would have require you to have a pitch deck fleshed out. It would require a little more work. So a lot of us Undocu entrepreneurs or Undocu business owners, a lot of us will go a little bit on the easier route, which is asking for a loan, right? So if you will be applying for a loan, you want to make sure that you educate yourself on the loan process. If needed, you need to begin a credit repair or building credit as a whole. So if you're, 18, you're a freshman in college, you maybe don't have that that credit score that's needed for a loan. Maybe you can start by developing your credit first through a small credit card, or developing your credit score through small loans that don't require you to take out a large sum of money, right? So you also need to complete a business plan, and you need to gather 2 to 3 years of financial history in order for you to receive a loan for a business, right? So again, you want to start small. Don't go straight to the big stuff. Don't go into like in debt if you're not knowledgeable on like what that loan is going to go into, right? Like what are you going to be using that loan for? All of that stuff needs to be flushed out in your business plan. And you can always seek grants as well. Grants is free money. I provided a link for you guys where you can actually seek small business grants and programs for a lot of your startups or a lot of your small businesses, and it'll actually give it to you by it'll kind of break it down for you very nicely if you're in a different state, or if you're an LGBTQIA person that's looking to start their business. There's minority owned businesses. There's if you're a woman or identify as a woman, there's a grant or there's a program for women owned businesses. So there's a lot of money out there. You just need to actually look for it. So don't go to the loan. Try to seek out grants. Try to seek out free money before you go into debt. Right. So the third level of assessment that you need to look into is assessing the market, right? So if you're developing a business, I'll take my business for example. If I'm starting a food business, there's a lot of food businesses out there, right? So I need to be providing something that's different, right? I can't just go out and provide the same thing that everyone down the street is providing, because then like how do you keep your business competitive? How do you make your business more profitable than the 10 other businesses that are providing the same thing, right? So you want to make sure that you assess the market, and you want to make sure that your product or your service is going to be feasible, that it's going to be doable, that there's a market for it, that there's customers that are interested in buying your product or using your service, etc. So you want to make sure that you assess the market through usability testing or your MVP. If you don't know what that is, I provided some links at the end of this workshop that you can read a little more into it. Again, this is there's a lot of information in here that I won't be able to kind of like dig deeper into, but it's very important. Usability testing is essentially just testing your product or service on potential customers. So do your customers know what you are selling? It's different for businesses that are providing a product versus a service, right? Because if you're providing a product, for example, right now I'm working with an Undocu entrepreneur that started her own vegan lipstick product line, right? And so before I told her before she establishes a business for that lipstick product, she needs to go out and make sure that there's potential customers for her product first, right? So she was going out and asking people like, hey, would you use this? Or she was having people test her product and giving her feedback, and she would take that feedback and go back and improve her product or modify her product so that it would actually it would be something that potential customers would actually want to buy, right? So if you're selling a product, you want to make sure that you go out and test it. If you're developing an app, for example, if you're very tech savvy and your business idea is an app, then go out and have people test your apps before you even fully establish that business, right? So you want to also assess who's already in the market. So I'll take this person that I'm helping right now. I told her that she needs to, look into other companies that are already giving out vegan lipsticks, because it's not a new idea. She's not coming up with something that's new. It's something that's already been developed. It's already in the market, right? So she needs to look at her competitors. Like, what are her competitors doing that she could do differently that would make her a little more that will make her more attractive for potential customers? Or how can she maybe take away some of the customers that are with Ulta or with I don't know if Ulta gives out vegan lipstick, but it's just an example. So you want to make sure that you assess the market, who your competitors are, what can you do different, and what are you going to provide that's different, so that your customers continue to come back, providing that that consistent revenue. Okay. You want to establish your target customers. Who are you targeting specifically? Because you want to know who your early adopters are, right? Like, who are going to be the first people to buy your product or buy your service, that will essentially kind of create that ripple effect so that more customers come, right? So I'm going to use my business as an example real quick. So B2B and B2C means, is it business to business or business to customer? At first, when I was starting my business, I started off as a resume providing service, right? And I was doing B2C, meaning I was providing my service specifically to just individual customers. So, Nicole needed a resume. Well, I would service her directly instead of like going to a business which is what I'm doing now. I amended my business plan. I was like, hey, you know what? I think that the money would be bigger. There would be more money if I focus on servicing businesses directly who might have a lump sum of target customers within their business, right? So I started developing a business plan that said, you know what, I'm going to, instead of providing just resume development services, I'm going to provide a larger umbrella of services, which is professional development. So I started targeting nonprofits who are working directly with job seekers. And I would go to them and say like, hey, you know what, I have developed this curriculum that would put your job seekers in a good place for them to go out and obtain the jobs that they need, or obtain the jobs that they desire. So then I developed that curriculum, and now I'm providing my services directly to a business rather than an individual customer. So you need to really assess like what your service or product, or who your service or product is going to be targeting, so that hey, the amount of revenue that comes from targeting individual customers will be better than targeting large businesses, and vice versa. Hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. Again, this assessing market area is the most important one, which is why it's like the most information filled. So I really do recommend for you guys to like spend a lot of time in this area of assessment for your business before you go out and actually develop your business or your idea completely or fully, and then establishing yourself as a business, and then finding out that you don't actually have potential customers, or you don't actually have people that are willing to buy your product or your service. Okay. Another thing about this area here is you want to try to stay away from testing your product or your service on friends, because friends are going to be, friends are going to be a great support system for you, and great cheerleaders, but they're not going to be the ones that are kind of like coming back every time, right? So you want to make sure that you're testing on people that don't directly know you, so that they can give you some honest feedback that's going to help you develop your business further, or your business idea further. Okay. And again, you want to protect your ideas and competitive edge, so get acquainted with NDAs. I also provided this link for the legal templates that you'll need. That legal templates site will actually provide NDAs for you. They'll provide business plans for you. They'll provide contracts for you. Of course, you want to make sure that all of these other documents that you get from legal templates are up to par with your county, state legislations and laws, etc. But yeah, protect your ideas. I'll use the vegan lipstick as an example once again. She has something that she's making, right? So she's got the formula to her lipstick. I always tell her, like, don't share what you're doing exactly to develop this lipstick without having people sign an NDA. That way, you can protect your business idea, you can protect your product, so that these people don't go off and try to create a vegan lipstick product and brand themselves and try to sell what you're working on, right? So you want to make sure that you protect your ideas, protect your competitive edge. And the last one, this is where you kind of like figure out whether this idea is, should you go or not go, right? So you want to go through a feasibility analysis. So it's really just an in-depth look at your assessment. So your self-assessment, your financial assessment, your market assessment, and determine whether the factors that lead to your idea's success or failures are addressed, right? So do you have the technical feasibility? Do you have the legal feasibility? Do you have the operational feasibility? Do you have a realistic project timeline? And do you have the economic feasibility? Again, this is where like one of my friends messed up, because he was developing this great idea, but he did not make sure that his business idea was feasible. Was it like there was a lot of legalities that he was kind of bumping into, like a lot of things that he did not take in mind when it came to developing this app that he was trying to like put out on the market for undocumented people, which, like, the idea was great, the intention was great, the overall idea was good, but he forgot to kind of follow through with the feasibility analysis to make sure that all his whole business idea was feasible. So you want to make sure that if you're going to develop an app, if you're going to develop a program, if you're going to develop if you're going to get into crypto, if you're going to get into so sorry. All right, sorry about that. I don't know what happened. Yeah, you just want to make sure that your idea is feasible, and you want to make sure that there's enough that your project is viable and you can move forward with it, and decide if it's economically feasible for you to go through with it, because a lot of people will go through with a certain idea and then later realize that the profit that they're making is not enough to keep their business afloat. And so then you're running into this issue of like, hey, like your expenses are a lot higher than your revenue, and so you're in the red, you're in debt, you're going into debt, and you can't run a business without creating profit, right? So you got to have that balance of feasibility, viability, and sustainability. So and this is where you decide if you want to you want to do more study or analyze additional alternatives to your initial business idea, or if you want to decide that that project you're working on is not viable, and then abandon it, right? So and don't feel bad if you have to abandon a certain business idea or a certain project. Like, it's not the end of the world. You got to make sure that that you don't go into the market, or you don't establish yourself as a business if your business idea was not good to begin with. Okay. You can always start over. You would just go back to your initial business idea, and again, analyze maybe some additional alternatives, like, hey, maybe a resume service is not profitable. Let me go back and see what else I can add to the idea to make it profitable. Or, you know what, hey, I actually have additional skills. Or if you bring in an additional person that maybe has a more technical background and is able to like help your technical feasibility, the technical feasibility of your business, then by all means bring someone else that actually knows what they're doing, so that you actually have a viable product or a viable service that can go into the market. Okay, hopefully this makes sense. Again, a lot of this is just kind of giving you an overview. Google is free, so you can always like Google feasibility analysis, and it will give you like a in-depth breakdown articles, like examples, all of that stuff, that will make you a little more knowledgeable on on these terms, and what I'm trying to get at when I'm talking about developing your own business ideas. All right, so little pop quiz, drop it in the chat. So we went over the 4 levels of assessment. So what are the 4 levels of assessment one should consider before starting a business? I'm open up the chat, and let's see if anyone remembers the 4 levels of assessment we just went through. Self-assessment, good. That's 1. Market research, yeah. Assessing the market, good. Marcos. 2 more. Feasibility assessment, good. 1 more. Yeah, and assessing your finances, good. All right, so you guys got that. So and then true or false, you should still establish a business even if you don't have all 4 levels of assessment completed. Is that true or false? False. Good. Yeah, because if you don't have one of those 3, you're 95% chance of like that your business could potentially fail. So you don't want to be one of those statistics where your business fails within the first year or the first 5 years, because you can do very well your first year and you're like, hey, you know what? I skipped over the assessment of the market. But my business is doing good right now. Well, yes, but then like markets change. So you want to make sure that you have business plans in down before you have all 4 levels of assessment down before you establish yourself as a business. So establishing your business now, you want to make sure that you know whether you're going to go with a team or you're going to go solo. Because you want to establish how membership is granted or revoked, right? So if you're going to be adding people as you go, that's fine. You want to make sure that all of that is in writing, because essentially once you start adding people into this business development portion, they're essentially part owners of this business now, right? So you want to make sure figure out like who's going to be part of this initial business development. You want to make sure that you have a business plan. You want to make sure that you have a business structure, and you have all the forms, regulations, and permits for your state. So we're going to go over the business plans. So again, I'm providing the legal templates link down here. But the business plan is actually, you want to make sure that you or your team research the type of business that you plan that you want, and and the state regulations of your state, so that you know what's required of you before you establish a business. And then you got to know whether you're going to do a pitch deck or you're going to just simply go with the business plan. So if you're seeking investors, if you're seeking to apply for funding or grants, more often than not, you're going to be required to develop a pitch deck. So you want to make sure that you know whether you're going to need one or both. But it's 100% you're going to need a business plan in order for you to open a bank account, or seek assistance from a small business development advisor, or just kind of knowing what your business is providing, right? Or what your product is, or what your business really is. The business plan will give everyone kind of like a rundown as to what that is. And it's, again, essential portion of your business before you establish an actual structure. And then the business structures, unfortunately, under US law, S corporations cannot have a non-resident alien as a shareholder. So you'll only really be able to establish, these are business entities, okay? So sole proprietor, different, independent contractor, different. These are actual business entities. You can establish yourself as an LLC, as a C Corp, or a nonprofit. And all of these can be established with an ITIN or an SSN. You want to assess which structure is best for your business. There's LegalZoom and Immigrants Rising, actually both, and I provided the link for both, actually both give a very good rundown as to like what makes those structures unique, what kind of protections and taxations you have, as well as like maybe some drawbacks to consider depending on what kind of business you're starting, and what product you're providing, etc. You want to make sure that you really read into the benefits and the pros and cons of all the structures and choose the one that's best for you and your team. LLC is the most common one, but if you're really if C Corp is the way to go, or nonprofit is the way to go as well, it's a good idea for you to assess, depending on like what you're trying to provide. Okay. And then, of course, keeping it real, keeping it illegal, you want to make sure that you do your research on what other forms or fees are required by your state. Here in the state of California, you need an articles of organization. You need to do a name check service to confirm that your business name is available. You need a statement of information that requires general information, general nature of the business, which you need to file and update every 2 years. And then you need to obtain your EIN with the IRS, which is your business tax identification number. If there's multiple people in the startup group, or like the people that are developing this business idea, the EIN is for all of you guys. So it's for the business. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to each individually get an EIN. The EIN is for the business entity. Okay. And as always, consult with a professional. If any of these are confusing, you want to make sure that you do it right and have everything in order for you to conduct business. For California, you can actually do a lot of these documents online, very easy, very quick, very, the interface for a lot of these for this process is very simple, at least for California. But I also provided the link for each state, so that you can kind of know what's the process for Arizona, for Texas, for New York, whatever. You'll be able to kind of know what that process is for your own state through this link here. Okay. All right. So congrats, you are newly established Undocu business owners. Let's drop your new business names in the chat. I want to see what you guys have. What are your business names? Evidence. Okay. New merchant. All right. I like that. Any more business names in the chat? Jupiter. All right. One more. No. All right. That's right. Artistry, OLB official. Okay. All right, awesome, cool. So you have a business now, you establish yourself as it's an actual structure. Your business entity, whether it be an LLC, a C corp, or a nonprofit, whatever. The process for a lot of these is different. If you have a nonprofit, obviously, it's different than an LLC, because in an LLC you're going to have to track a lot of a little more stuff than nonprofits, or the tracking for nonprofits is different in terms of like tax deductions and all that stuff. But just some quick tips. You want to amend and innovate, keep up with the market, maintain your competitive edge, analyze ways to increase revenue, organize and prepare. No employer withholding, so you're going to have to pay quarterly or annual taxes. So you want to make sure you hold at least 18 to 25% of your revenue, because you're going to have to pay taxes at the end of the year or quarterly, depending on how much you're making. You want to make sure you keep receipts and records of up to 6 to 7 years. You want to deduct your business expenses, use your tax breaks and deductions. Some quick examples are like business insurance, travel costs, office supplies, inventory, home office, meals, marketing, advertising, all of that stuff will give you tax deductions at the end of the year. So you want to make sure you keep a track record of that and receipts, so that you're able to pay less taxes when it comes down to tax season. Okay. Hire and seek help from people who are experts in tasks that you are not an expert on. So I have an accountant. I have someone that prepares my taxes for me. Seek legal counsel if if it's needed. Highly recommended that you don't do everything on your own if you're not an expert on everything. Network and collaborate where needed. You want to make sure that you know what your business is, and then take risk, understand the risk and the rewards. Being a business owner, you're taking risk all the time. Some of it comes with rewards, some of it comes with lessons. And then of course, research, never stop reading, never stop learning, always look up best, other ways to do things better, so that you're always learning and able to share some of that information to other people that might need it. And this is just a resource page for you guys. Some good reads, things to learn about as a new business owner that I wasn't able to cover in this presentation because it's just too much. There's some crowdfunding opportunities for those that are looking for money, grants, all that stuff through crowdfunding. And then some of the websites that I was referencing throughout the presentation, I've also provided here, as well as other great resources for those that are looking to start their own businesses. All right, guys. Again, sorry, this is a lot of information. It's a very information-filled presentation. Again, the process of developing your business is there's a lot to it, and I hope that I was able to provide at least a little bit of everything, so that you guys can kind of start getting mentally ready to know what to expect before you start your own business. Feel free to follow me on Instagram. I do post a lot of things revolving around Undocu Entrepreneurship and resources and other workshops and stuff that I'm working on. And then also feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Thanks a lot, guys, and we'll open it up for Q&A now.
Yes, thank you so much, Joel, for this great presentation and wonderful resources. And I loved the list of recommended books to read as well on that last page. So I do see there was a couple questions in the chat. If you have a question, feel free to type it, and hopefully we may have time to answer it. But one question I just saw that came through is, do you have any advice on scaling a small business? And also on how to find partners for expanding your business team? Yeah,
so LinkedIn is going to be big. There's always people that are seeking opportunities to partner. Also, scaling your business, I would highly recommend the Small Business Development Center. They're free service. I believe they're available throughout every state. Every state should have a small business development center where you can seek a business advisor for free. I actually did that. And they are able to kind of like look over your business plan and try to figure out like what maybe what other markets you can get into, how to maybe establish a actual physical location if maybe you're an online business right now, how to scale your business, seek funding to scale your businesses and all that stuff. So Small Business Development Center is a good resource to start with. In terms of partners, it's always a networking. I've had opportunities to meet with people that are other founders through summits, through conferences. So, really be on the lookout for those entrepreneurship or business development conferences and summits, so that you can connect with other people that might be working on some similar projects or pitching similar business ideas. And you can always approach them and tell them that you have a similar idea and would like to maybe discuss a collaboration, etc.
Next question I saw in the chat. Can you start a business before or after college?
Yeah, you can do it before, after, during as well. I mean, it really depends on your capacity, right? Because as I mentioned, it's a process. Like, you're gonna have to go through a lot of things, and if you're doing it by yourself, you gotta take in mind like your schoolwork. What's your workload look like? What's your capacity to develop an actual business, and what's your capacity to maintain a business, right? So a lot of my business services had to slow down while I was a master's student because of my school load. But it's completely doable. I just you're gonna have to make a little bit of sacrifices, right? Whether that be a little bit of your social life, a little bit of your home life. It just really depends on like what your capacity is, but it's completely doable.
And then I think the last question we'll ask due to time is, there were a lot of questions about generating money or how to open a bank account. But this specific question that I'll ask is, how do you generate money in general for a business, but also when that business is geared toward underserved communities?
Seek institutions, like institutions have money, you want to hold them accountable, right? So if you're there's always an institution for some kind of issue, right? Social issues, whether it be homelessness, whether it be people with disabilities, whether it be undocumented people, whether it be women, LGBTQIA, all of those, they have institutions that are doing some kind of work and are always willing to bring people on to either provide workshops, provide some kind of like service that you might be providing, meditations, all that stuff, like whatever you're providing towards a minoritized community or whatever. Try to seek institutions that are doing some kind of work or that have been allotted a certain amount of maybe funding, whether it's coming from the state or whether it's coming from a county or whatever. They always have a pot of money that they utilize to bring in outside people or outside vendors. Try to figure out how you can get vendorized with these institutions, colleges, universities. Always reach out. Don't be afraid to knock on doors. And but you really want to be able to articulate what kind of service you're providing, whether it be a multitude of services that you're going to be providing, or just simply one service that you're really good at. Just want to be able to make sure that you articulate it so that you're credible and institutions or nonprofits are wanting to contract with you. So just seek those institutions, because that's where the money is at. Because if you're trying to provide a workshop or a service to one individual person, most of the time that one individual person might not have the money to put out for you to provide that service for that one person. So institutions, universities, etc.
Thank you, Joel, for answering those questions and providing very sound advice during our Q&A, as well as through this past hour. And to our scholars and alumni who attended, thank you so much again for your attention today. As a reminder, I just put in the chat, our last session is tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern time, which is 2 p.m. Pacific time. And that topic is on how to find independent contracting and freelance work. So we hope to see some of you there. Also, as a reminder, this session and all the other sessions have been recorded and are posted to our YouTube channel. So you can find the playlist there. And we hope to see some of you tomorrow. So goodbye.